Hey guys, welcome to the fourth episode of Coding, part 5 for this full stack tutorial of building a fitness report. So far, we've constructed the front end components. We've talked about the API layer. We do have an Axios fetch working, and we've instantiated Prisma. And then now we need to get some data into our database, and we also have our local database as well. So we've roughly built the bird's eye view of these things. We now just need to put the form together that can put data all the way back over here. So that's going to be the goal of this episode. Let's try to do that. So I have a base input component that I need to copy and paste in here. Guys, and basically this just needs to be an input. So feel free to steal the code below. I am going to use an old component of mine that I'm going to update very quickly. But if you want to, let's see, I don't want it to be a formatter or phone number formatter, so I'm going to take all that stuff out. But this should work for our input component. If you want to steal my code for this input component, it is completely available for you in the description below. Let me show you what this input looks like. It's kind of a cheeky good input. So we have it in our component. Let's also, we're going to need to build a new page, I think, too, and kind of some navigation with this. Because right now we just have this plain Jane report. So let's kind of label this page as well. I realize we didn't make a header for it. So I'll come back out here to our page.tsx and I'll say H1. And we'll say fitness reports, class name. Let's see if it'll pop up. Oh, my server's not running. And let's see it pop up here. And I'll go ahead and give it margin 8, MY8. So we have a little bit of space up and down from it. Oops. Okay. Should be here. And one moment, guys. My computer sometimes takes a little while it's screen recording. I promise when I'm monetized, I will invest in a new computer. I promise I will. But let's kind of build our next page while that's loading. So I'll come to my app directory and I'll say new folder. And this new folder is going to be our input page. So I'll say input fitness report or something, or input form. It's perfectly fine. In this folder, I'll say page.tsx, and I could say RFCE. And let's actually go to our other page over here and let's steal it. So I'm just going to copy it and then paste it, and I'll rename it to input form. And it will have this reports as the header, but I'll say input form at the top. And we'll need to build a bit more stuff around it. So let me actually do with full as well as text center for this heading. And I will say font bold and text 3XL. And let's steal this H1 and let's put it back on this fitness report page as well. So it should adjust everything. So we have an input form page, but let me rename it to fitness reports. So those two things should be built out. If I go to, well, we need some sort of navigation as well. So let me go to our base wrapper and let's put a nav component above our children. So this will be a tag from next link, and it will be href here. Let's see. So I'll say reports, and this page will be input/form, and I will say create new report. I think that's pretty much all we need for a header. Let's see, flex, and I'll say gap 8 and margin 8 as well, and text white. So we should have these reports. Now we can click on them to navigate our application. We have an input form page and then a fitness report page. So I know it's not the cleanest of things, but it'll work for now. I can extrapolate it on a little bit more as well. Just add some class names to these links. So let's say opacity 50, then hover opacity, we'll say 100, just to make these links a little bit prettier. So we can click on them, boom, boom. And then of course we could highlight them with the route that they're on as well, if we would like to do that. So I think how to do that is import use router from next navigation. And then in my file right here, right above the return statement, I can say const router equals use router. I think it's console log router path name. Let's see. That'll pop up for us or not. Maybe it's not path name, maybe it's path. Okay, let's see. I'll pop up that only works in client components, no problem. So we'll come to the top of the file and say use client. And let's see what pops up here. Boom. So forward, back. Oh, use router is not going to be our go-to. It might be use route. Let's see. Pull up an old project real quick. Sorry, guys. Not trying to always cop out, pull up an old project, but it does keep it easy. does keep it easy for me. So let me see. How did I do this? Router, use router path. Oh, use path name. Got it. That's how it is. Okay. So it looks like it's still from Next navigation. So we'll pop that in here. Use path name and current path. Boom. Input form. Perfect. So all we need to do is now just change our link. So I'll say equals backticks, and I'll say if path equals /, do this opacity 100 or opacity 50. And then either way, I want the hover effect to be opacity 100. Okay, that should work. And then we just need to change the second bit right here to input form. So now we can see which one we're on. Boom. So that will work. And then finally, guys, right here, I'll just say text center just to center these things. Oh, I guess I need to do if center, or maybe it's item. Oh, perfect. Okay, there it is. And then maybe I'll do border -B just to give us a little bit of a header type thing. Obviously not the prettiest. I'm not too concerned about pretty. If you guys want to pretty it up, feel free to go ahead and do that. I just want to show you guys how to build the Lego blocks. I was gonna say Lego bricks and blocks, and it became blicks. Yeah, so go ahead and pretty it up as you want, style it as you need. I just want to show you guys the components and parts. So this is going to be our base wrapper component now, and I guess you could store this all as a navigation component if you would like. So base navigation. Obviously, it doesn't exist quite yet, so let's go ahead and construct it. So base navigation.tsx, and I'll paste it in, or I won't. I will do an RFCE first, and then I will paste it in. I could delete these to divs, and I'll export default up here. We need to import the link component from next link, and then we need to import path from a use path name. And we also need to import base navigation where we're going to use it. So let me delete all this stuff real quick, and I'll import that here. And we need to use client in this base navigation component, I believe. And right here, finally, we need to say const path equals use path name. Perfect. I think doing all that should cover our bases, and we should be back up and running. And it looks like we are. Perfect. Okay, cool. So let's get working on that input form, what we originally wanted to do. We just had to do some homework real quick. So here is where our input form is going to be. So I'll start it with a div, and I'll just say input form, so we can kind of see, okay, here's our fitness reports page. Let's go ahead and go to the create new report page. So I'm going to delete that base table. We don't need it in this component, but we do need our base input. Let's see what that roughly looks like. So we have this input line right here, and it takes a few things. So the name, it'll say, I forget how it actually works, guys, forgive me. But we could put a few things of placeholder. So I could say client name, for instance, and that should pop up here. And then when I click on it, you could see how it slides up. It's that really pretty kind of effect there. So we'll need to do a few more things. I'll wrap this in a div real quick, just because we'll need to organize a bunch of these input components. So I'll say flex-call, and I'll say px8, so it's not touching the side walls, because we're going to end up needing 8 of them, to be honest. So, but let's start with just the fitness report. Let's kind of figure out how this component fully works. So let me go back to another project one more time, an old project, and I will steal how this works. So if I go to account information, guys, I just need it real quick to see how it works. And let's do that. We're going to end up stealing a lot from that form, actually, from that other thing. So we'll have form data and set form data and use state. This is actually going to be a really robust form. So we're going to do a few things here. We're going to learn a little bit about forms, and we're going to learn a little bit about form data as well. So let's go back to our schema really quick, and we'll need to steal a lot of these things from our schema. So we'll say fitness report name, we'll instantiate it with nothing, and you could see where this is heading. We could say fitness report date, and we'll start it with nothing, all that stuff. But let's just start with those two, and let's get those working as best as we can. So we need a handle change function, and we also need errors. So one more time, I'm going to actually steal a lot from this other project because it's actually a lot of code, guys. So you guys can go ahead and steal as well. Would highly recommend. Oops, did not mean to do that. So let me pull our front end, and then let me pull up that tutorial one more time. So let me see all the functions and things we're going to steal, because it already handles error validations, all of that stuff for us. So it's going to be really swimmingly fast once we have it all set up. I don't want to retype it all out. It's kind of a lot to do. So we need our errors, and we also need our handle change function. So let me get out of our Prisma schema. And let me just explain a little bit how we're going to use this handle change. Basically, this handle change is going to, we need to come to the top of the file, use client. This handle change is going to set up our form data. So we don't need to say, handle change, update the fitness report name. It will take in whatever field we pass it, and it will automatically update it in our form data. So that's pretty awesome for us. And then finally, we need to pull in our schema, our object. So let me steal this real quick. So we have our client schema, and boom. So I will start deleting all of these. We just need to start with the initial one. And finally, we do need to import Zod. So Zod is going to be a library from, sorry guys, this is going to be a little bit of setup. So we need to import change event from React, and then we need to install Zod. And Zod, what it is a schema validator. So if we go back to our Lucid chart while that's downloading, I just did npm I for Zod. When we build that payload, if we go back a few times, kind of what Zod does, and you almost don't need type safety on the front end if you have a validator. So what Zod does is, while we're sending this payload to the backend, and the backend is expecting this payload, we want to do something with Zod and pretend that this is Zod real quick. So everything that comes through this line needs to be validated. So in our input forms, we're kind of building these responses, right? For our fitness report name and our form data, we're building these things out. So form data, I'm building out the fitness report name. And basically what I can do with Zod immediately is say, well, I want this fitness report to be validated as a string. And that way, when we send the data to be a payload, it's already validated. But the important part to understand, because you might say, well, why are we doing that? Because it seems like, why would you do extra work? We're already doing type safety here. But the type safety here is post-compilation, meaning this happens from a user's input. This is all within our control of the front end and our system and our back end system. But this form data, this validation, this is what comes from the user. So the user could do stuff. They could put in weird commands, weird symbols, and all sorts of who knows what, right? Maybe they're trying to do a SQL injection. Maybe they're trying to do something bad. But we want to make sure that the user's input is clean. So when it comes in, it's already validated. And if it's not, then we don't let it come past our firewall, if we will, our validation wall. So that's why we want to do validation. And I'll give another example. So let's say we're collecting emails. So fitness report email. We want to make sure our users have an @ symbol and a .com or a .net or one of these .whatevers, .something I'll say. We want to make sure every email contains one of those things before it comes through our data. Because if we have a payload, let's say we're collecting emails and all we checked for is if the email's a string, which you could kind of do, how would you validate that the email has an symbol in it or it's a valid email? So we can use validators to kind of handle stuff like that. Now, I guess you still could do it on the payload thing, but the biggest importance is this is on the user side. This is us validating the user's data, and this is our system. So our validation, as mentioned, it's mostly done here. So I guess technically we could kind of get rid of this payload if we want, but it's easy to integrate. Might as well keep it if we're validating here. Now let's just double check before we send it to the backend. Let's just have an extra layer of security real quick of just our payload being validated before we send it to our backend. So that's just bird's eye view, roughly what we're trying to accomplish. Let's go ahead and get this figured out real quick, guys. And this might take another episode because we're already 18 minutes in. But we are doing a lot. We are doing a lot of form validation. We built our schemas. We have our front end system. We have our back end system. So let's kind of build this out a little bit more. And this client name needs to be named different. So we'll say fitness report schema, and it needs to be fitness report name. So we'll say fitness, I will say report name is required. That'll be the error that it throws. And I'll show you guys what this looks like now all put together. So, and then finally we need to update these as well. So report name, and I think on key press, I need to steal that from this file as well. So let's continue working. Where is this on key press? I need that piece of data just so if a user presses enter, we want to obviously submit the file and then, or submit the payload. And I need to steal a handle submit function as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll say handle submit right here, and let's just update everything here. So let's erase that. Let's get rid of our toast notifications. We don't have that. I'm actually going to get rid of the try catch. We're not going to do that here. And I need to update the client schema to fitness report schema. And let's see. I think that'll roughly work. Let's get rid of this try. Perfect. Okay. We need to do one more thing. It looks like we're breaking one more thing. Okay. So guys, I know it's a little convoluted too, but just feel free to steal the code. I'm going to upload the 4th episode to the code base right now after finishing this video. Let's just make sure this input field works. So we have a default form here, which is also, looks like I need to do that as well here, is create a default form as well. Okay. Oh, and I can get rid of the object. So I think all things done correctly. Let's get rid of the client address. This needs to be fitness report name. And then we'll change the placeholder to report name. So right here. And I think all things done correctly, we should be ready for a submission. So I will make a button real quick that just says click to create report. And on click, we want to handle submit. So let's see if this works. Perfect. The validation, it did not let us do any submission because we don't have any text in here. So we've built the rough model of everything we need for at least building the bare bones of the fitness report. It'll go by so quick now that we've done all the hard lifting. So let me just kind of chop up our things. Let's just build out a little bit of a separation so we can kind of see where we're working. So I'll say, oops, did not mean to do that. It'll just be state and errors, and this will be our validations. Boom. Okay, perfect. So now we can kind of chunk things out and see how things are working, right? So when we fire off this report, we want to do our Axios request here. And basically what we want to do is submit our payload that we've been ironing out and working really hard to construct. We want to submit that there. But finally, we just, if we want to add new forms or new fields to our form, I'll show you guys how easy this is. At least for this fitness report part, I haven't figured out the training plan part quite yet, but for the fitness report part, watch how easy this is now that everything's set up. So just take our next field of reporting date, let's say, and I can go ahead and just pop it down here. Let me just copy this down, put in reporting date or fitness report date. We're going to get an error for whichever reason. And what I need to do is add it here. So fitness report date, I'll say report date is required. And then also what I need to do is just come down here and build a input field for the fitness report date and just change all of these names. So form.fitness report date. And you can see it's already picked up, say report date, and watch this. Boom. Validation is already required, just like that. So it works great. And then let's just put in our date and say fitness report 1, and it should go away. Boom. So that's our form validation in a nutshell. Let's try to get this to the back end in the next episode, guys. I thought we'd be able to get it done all in this episode, but obviously getting clean data is really important. And like I said, I know this is still a small scale local build, but I'm trying to offload knowledge for you guys that is really, really, really valuable, because this is the type of stuff that really makes a system pretty robust and strong. And as seen, when you kind of do all the hard work, it's a lot easier it pays off in the long run. So the hard work's done up front, and then now we could easily just start running through all the schema things that we need. So if we want to add a training section, it's just easy to add. So we'll say trainer is required, boom. And then all we need to do now is just build our training input, and everything's already there. So boom, and we'll say trainer, and look at this. It's already done. It's already done. So that's how easy form validation could be. So reporting date this, and then Sarah Summers for the trainer, we should have no errors. But if we try to submit the form without this, says trainer is required. Same with all this other stuff. So that's the type of form validation we want, is just to let the user know, hey, you got to put this in. And not only that, but we want it all validated to our payload. And I'm sure there's a way to actually point all of this at our Prisma client schema. So I'll figure that out in a moment, but let's just kind of take this momentum into the next episode. I will upload this code in the code base if you need it. Like I said, you just go to the GitHub repository and check the branches available. This will be 4th episode code. So I will see you on the 5th episode.